But here we have Memphis shooting spree suspect Ezekiel Kelly back in court following a live streamed attack. So he live streamed, perhaps it was to Facebook, shooting people, and among those, of course, white people that were shot. You will find that there's a connection to this fellow by some other anti-white individuals, and we'll be talking about them in just a minute and how that is important for us and why those who represent us in government in the United States and elsewhere around the world should be talking about this sort of thing nonstop. Memphis shooting suspect Ezekiel Kelly is accused of shooting 7 people last week, killing 4 over a span of 7 hours. And that's him smiling, not smiling so much there. The Memphis man accused of gunning down a friend and 6 people in and around the city last week returned to court for a brief motion hearing on Tuesday. Are you one of these white people who want to suddenly say, well, he must be crazy? He must be crazy. If you are, then you're the one who's crazy, because you don't understand that this is the kind of thing that we as advocates for white well-being need to magnify to the size of the sun. It needs to be bigger even than the sun in our skies. When anti-whites go out into the community and they randomly select, there's a white person, I will gun that person down. I don't care how many other people they shot out there. I don't care if they also shot this group and also shot that group. The fact that they're shooting my people when we have been dehumanized, and thus this opens the door to every sort of crime, because there's no murderer, rapist, felony shooter, anything like this, who magnanimously says, well, I'm just going to overlook all of the harm that has been done to my people, according to this anti-white narrative by that evil white race, when I decide to randomly shoot them. No, we all know damn well and good that this monster, if indeed he is guilty of these shootings, that he thought, there's one of the white devils. There's another white devil that I can shoot. Talking about Westmen, men, women, and children, of course. That is what was going through his mind. Do you remember what the anti-whites, and I will say this to you again, if you are rank and file, conservative, Republican, etc., you're a good person. You're obeying the law. You pay your taxes. You clean your lawn up, and you expect the same from your neighbors. Very good. The problem is that you've been losing for your whole life and for the lives of your parents and grandparents before you, because you have continued to play by rules that the opposition, our victimizers, have never played by. You see, they see everything through a very pellucid, look it up, if you don't know what it means, a very pellucid lens, anti-white lens. That's how they view the world, and that's how they advance their anti-white agenda in the world. You see, we can go back to, I think it was Columbine, when a couple of anti-white youths, in my opinion, anti-whites, went into a school and then shot a bunch of their peers. Well, if you all recall, in the subsequent days, we were subjected to interview after interview, story after story about how these two were Nazis and that they idolized this person or that person, and their deed was done for the benefit of the white race, and that their objective was to murder non-white students, their non-white peers at the school. It just so happened that they could only find 1 or 2 to murder while they were murdering a bunch of white kids. It just so happened that that's the case. And so I'm going to say to you, if you are a good rank and file, MAGA, patriot, nationalist, whatever it is, and this sounds distasteful to you, that we would focus on the fact that indeed is a fact, is a reality, what I just submitted to you, isn't it? You know damn well and good. So don't try to shake your head no, you little bitches out there. Don't try to shake your head no to me. You know very well and good that everybody out there who commits a crime against the white race is not doing it with magnanimity. They have been born into an anti-white soup where they are taught for the totality of their lives that the white race has raped and pillaged and stolen. And if it just wasn't for the avatar of the white race, every white person that they come across, if it just wasn't for all of those avatars out there, why they would be living in mansions, maybe even castles, maybe even in space stations, wouldn't they? But because of all of those avatars around them, because of that plumber, because of that lawyer, because of that 8-year-old white cheerleader little girl, because of all of them, this particular anti-white has to live in squalor with nothing but violence around him or herself. When they victimize Westmen, and Westmen means men, women, or children, just like human means men, women, or children. When they victimize Westmen, they are thinking malice aforethought. This is revenge. This is the evil white race, they say to themselves. So make no mistake, you know I'm right. You just have to change your huggies. In fact, you can get potty trained. Get potty trained. Get off the starter toilet. Learn how to go to the bathroom. And all you little boys out there, I don't care if you're 50 years old, you got to learn how to piss while you're standing. Nothing but cowards. You know very well that when this monster drove through those neighborhoods, looking for people to murder on Facebook, if that's the platform that he was streaming to at the time, you know very well that he was hunting for white people. And everywhere he found one, it was, there's one of those evil white people that I'm going to take out. Every single time. So we have to look at this. And what does it mean when we have to look? That means that our elected representatives have to look at it this way. And if they're not, then we have to hold their feet to the fire or their face to the fire until the sunburn is so ripe that they decide to start talking the way we want them to talk. You got it? Ezekiel Kelly wore a dark-colored jail suit, a jumpsuit, and a face mask in court on Tuesday. Looks like a potential neuroscientist to me. Where I wouldn't be surprised if MLB, if you just see that in the mirror as I say it, decides to, I wouldn't be surprised if they decided to erect a statue to him. Where he appeared before Judge Karen Massey. Massey has signed an order limiting extrajudicial statements, meaning statements made outside of the courtroom, and ordered the murder. So, I mean, we all know what's going on here. An anti-white is this particular anti-white is a violent, degenerate piece of shit. Already a long criminal history. Out on the streets. Should have been, if I were in office and I were getting my way, and I had brought in our own new police force to enforce my will relative to the corrupt bastards in the CIA, FBI, Homeland Security, and the rest. If I were in office, this fella would have been shipped out of this country. We wouldn't be paying for him in prison. We wouldn't be paying for him with our lives and blood and treasure and toil in the streets. Oh no. Oh no, no. No, unless there was something, he would pay his time to make amends for whoever he victimized, and then he would be given an opportunity. It would be, you can stay in prison or you can be evicted from the country. It can be one or the other. But if you come back, it's immediate execution, like in the field execution. We'll put your fingerprints on the iPad and we'll see, oh, is that you? Guess it is. And then immediate execution in the field. No judge to intervene, no ACLU to intervene, nothing of that matter. In the field, execution if you return. What's it going to be? Then all these people would be alive today. The point that is exceedingly pertinent here and should reach down into your soul, yanking you up out of your panties, is this. The next day, some friends of this guy, and you want to say, but Jason, how do you know they're friends? Would anti-whites conclude that these people were friends if they were white? I don't need to know for sure. I can give you my opinion, and then you can accept my opinion or not. Do you want to put an end to the victimization of Western kind? Well, then you probably should accept my opinion about them most likely being friends. I have no evidence of it. Am I just going to wait all along? Am I going to hem and haw? Am I going to tear at my garments saying, what's the most objective thing I can say here about this? What's the way that I can talk about this where I'm 1 or 2 or 10 times removed so that it sounds more legitimate that way? That. You'll be saying that all the way up until they come through your doors and windows. Memphis, anti-whites. What matters is that he's anti-white. I don't give a what race he is. I don't care what he calls himself. He could call himself Chinese. I don't care. He's anti-white. He boasts about plans to shoot white people. I hope y'all ready, he says. It's a vulgar, totally illiterate, dumbass video, which you would expect coming out of the thuggery. But Andy No here decided to do some tweeting, and he can get away with it because he's not white. To a degree. To a degree, he can get away with it. A day after Ezekiel Kelly allegedly went on a deadly mass shooting spree through Memphis, law enforcement are trying to find the identities of 2 black males making terroristic threats on video to kill white people. Quote, he already shot a white hoe. Man, I'm fixing to shoot a white old lady. I get maybe he says shit there. Yeah, probably shit, throwing that in like the middle of his oration. I mean, I'm sure it was beautiful. Shit, while her grandkids in the car. How many of those do you need to hear to know that that conversation is taking place across the anti-white world? Are you one of those white people that think that that is some sort of an anomaly? If you are, you're like the dodo bird. And maybe it's time for your gullible white booby ass to not make it through the bottleneck that's going to happen, genetic bottleneck that's going to happen to our people. Maybe you need to be removed from that gene pool so that we can be healthier. Because this is the kind of conversation that anti-whites are having all the time. It's time for revenge. It's time to get back at the white race. It's time to go shoot the white old ladies while their grandkids have to watch them bleed and cry to death in the cars that they, of course, would crash. This is the conversation that's always taking place. And you know, there were brothers and sisters out there, primarily sisters of both sexes, in our once great country of South Africa that made such arguments. Oh, that's just an anomaly for that person. Oh, yeah, it's true that these anomalies keep picking up. And it's true that now it's being said by like heads of the country and things in departments in the country. But this is not the real feeling of the opposition to us. They're just in pain. They hurt. Didn't you see the Hallmark movie where they're always like crying when they're alone and nobody understands them? Nobody gets what they're going through. So even though they're calling for all of us to be killed, even though they're calling for the war that's being waged against the white race, and make no mistake, there's a war being waged against the white race. I just made that argument where none of these criminals, none of these acts, none of these ne'er-do-wells or miscreants or malefactors, whatever you want to call them, none of them are doing these things without thinking, I'm taking out the white victim. I'm taking out this white devil. None of them are committing any act, whether it's even if it's being pickpocketing you, robbing you, carjacking you, raping you, murdering you just for the shit of it. They're all thinking, yes, I'm getting back at the white race. You want to know what really matters there? It doesn't matter that I'm not able to hear the voices in their heads, and thank God for that, all around the world. You know what matters? Is that that's the mentality, first of all, that's really going on, but that's the mentality that's going to enable us to prevail in the recapture of our destiny. No other attitude is going to suffice. And if you're too weak-kneed, you're too cowardly for that, you're too craven for that, then this world isn't for you. And that's probably why we are so easily being manipulated and defeated day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, because there are too many folks like you. This is what every anti-white is saying. And it is being said in so many words from the president of the United States all the way down to these anti-white monsters riding around in their hoopties, fingering the triggers on their firearms. You just had Biden talking about the threat to democracy, didn't you? You just had Biden talking about how it's all these MAGA people. It's all the MAGA people. It's all the people who object most fervently, who might actually stand up and attempt to put an end to the victimization of Western kind and the destruction of these United States. Those people are a threat, a terroristic threat. What do you do with terrorists? What do governments do with peoples that they name terrorists, or peoples that they say present terroristic threats? So it is from the very top of the anti-white pyramid of positions that can be held in any country, Biden all the way down to a weed smoking thug riding around in a hoopty looking for white people to shoot in a city that his people didn't build, in a state that his people didn't found and create. That is what's happening.